I know you probably don't want to be so public with this, but as we record this and this comes out on Friday, I think it's your birthday. I
Oh,
believe
it is.
you're I want, and what I want to know. I mean, I don't just want to say it's your birthday and just pander to you because it's your birthday, but I want to recognize
pandering to me is always
is
always a wise thing to do. Pandering is I love yeah.
And as I'm getting to your age,
okay,
you're very wise.
Thank you.
You have lots of experience.
That's true. A lot of road treads.
What do you? Yeah. What do you have a resolution of some kind? Are you thinking a little differently about life these days? What is going through the head of Robert Rose?
Well, you know what I'll tell you is this. This is not a big birthday for me, by the way. This is the year before a big birthday, which would be next year. But I would say that the biggest thing is, and other people have said this, my field of fucks is becoming quite bare. That's really where it is. It's getting to the point now where I really there's not a lot out there in the field any longer. So
I think that is probably the best advice that anyone of any age could. Just don't care what people think. Yeah. If you don't care what people think and you do what's in your heart, what's important to you, and you've just come to this realization. So you've been really concerned about what people have thought for all
holy smokes. Yes, absolutely. I've been way concerned about what other people think for forever and ever, and still am, by the way. I don't think it's gone, but it's definitely, as I look out upon my field of fucks, I can see that they are starting to winnow, as it were.
This is the explicit episode, by the way.
Well, if Trump can drop an F-bomb, I certainly can. I mean, come on.
Actually, that's a good point. I think we'll just leave it there. But happy birthday. Everybody send Robert a present.
There it is.
Yeah, something like that.
Just remember, everybody has your story to tell. Tell it well. Of this old marketing.
And now, for your listening pleasure, here's Polizzi and Rose, covering the week of media, marketing, and digital content news. This old marketing. Take it away, boys.
Well, hello, friends. Welcome to This Old Marketing, proudly brought to you by the HubSpot Podcast Network, the audio destination for business professionals. And I'm Robert Rose. And as you can see, well, it's my birthday tomorrow. So yeah, welcome to episode number 486 for Friday, June 27th, 2025. And with me, as he is usually, my pal, my colleague, and a guy, well, we both weren't invited to Jeff Bezos' Italian wedding, Mr. Joe Polizzi.
Yeah, I honestly would have loved to be there. Because
come on now.
It seems so over the top.
He's basically rented out Venice.
They're not happy.
Oh no,
Venetians are not happy.
The Venetians are not happy. No, they're not at all.
Did you see the big?
I think they were going to do inflatable crocodiles or something like that. Is what they were worried about now.
There was the tarp that they said about Jeff paying more taxes. Did you see that they laid?
Yep.
Interesting. What's he spending on?
It's like when remember this is going way back now, but when Bill Gates married Melinda, way back a long time ago, he rented out the entire, I think it was Maui. He basically rented the entire, like he rented every car, rented every helicopter, rented every boat, basically, so there would be no paparazzi. Like there would be no resources for paparazzi to get around, and basically just booked everything so that there would be no photographs of his wedding other than what he approved of. And this reminds me very much of that.
He looks good. I mean, he looks like he works out about 8 hours a day.
I mean, he looks like he should be driving like a lime green Corvette, you know what I mean? And with a baseball cap and his mirror shades on, sort of blasting White Snake out of the car.
Here I go again on my own. Do you think that he that's all natural, like he's really worked out?
No,
Or do
I
you
don't
think
believe that's
do
all
you think that
natural
he's
for a
had
man.
No, I really want to know. Do you think that he's had muscular implants?
No, I believe
You
he
don't
is.
think that?
I believe he is mainlining creatine. Is what I think he's doing. He is. He's
Wow.
on. I'm sure he's on the creatine. Yeah.
But that's a natural supplement. I'm talking about like actually like he's not on like heavy duty steroids.
I can't imagine that. No, because that's. I mean, look, maybe, but he's. He's. I would have to expect that he cares about his health more, and it gets really dangerous when you get on steroids at that age. But it would not surprise me to hear that he's on testosterone plus creatine plus other natural
Yeah, I mean,
supplements.
so is Scott Galloway. I mean,
Yeah,
Scott
for
Galloway,
sure.
he
Yeah,
does
Galloway talks about
testosterone
it all the time.
replacement. Yeah, and whatever. It's
Yeah.
he definitely looks like Lex Luthor to me now, though. Like when
Oh,
I see him,
totally.
I
He's
think that
absolutely, yeah.
he should have been. As we record this, Superman, I think comes out July 15th or
Take
something
my
like that.
money.
I know
Yeah, take my
you're
money.
very excited.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, Superman
Are
is
you
my favorite.
concerned? Are you concerned at all that it's
A little
going to
bit.
be a flop?
Well, I'm not concerned it's going to be a flop. It's going to be a huge hit. It's going to be a monster hit. But I am concerned, and rightfully so, after the litany and parade of Superman movies that have come out since the Christopher Reeve version, which is the last decent Superman. The first,
I like
the first.
You don't
one.
like the Cavill versions?
I could go on a whole rant.
Well,
We could do a whole show on this, right?
This is your area.
I love Henry Cavill as Superman. I thought he was probably even better than Christopher Reeve from an attitude perspective of what Superman really is. However, the Man of Steel, the first 30 minutes of Man of Steel is my favorite Superman movie, television show, bar none. Right, the first 30 minutes, which is really the origin story of. I loved it
With him and
then
Kevin
it
Costner and the interplay, and the tornado,
so
and the
great.
whole thing.
Yeah, it's all of that is so great with Kevin Costner and the whole thing. It's fantastic. Then if that movie just falls apart. So that movie just falls apart because you don't care anymore, right? When you realize. And there's a scene where for me, it just gets like, I even narrow it down to one specific scene, which is when he goes up into Zod's spaceship to rescue Lois Lane. Basically, that's the end for me. That's the end.
Why?
Ridiculous. Because it's at that point that you realize that they are invincible. And then from that point of the movie forward, there's no risk. There's absolutely, he can't, which is what makes me so excited, by the way. The fact that the first thing that you see in the trailer for the new Superman is Superman bleeding in the snow is like,
That's right.
Yes, he can. Superman was never the original. It wasn't that he was invincible. It was just that he was super strong. He could fly and he could do all these things, but there were weaknesses that could be taken advantage of. And so you never got any weaknesses. So you never cared about anything. You never cared about the villains. You never cared about the hero. You never cared about Lois Lane. It's just, I stopped caring. And so I could go on and on about the directorial style of
Sure.
But anyway, so yes, I'm excited.
Well, I'll tell you what, the future of Cleveland, Ohio is at stake here because if this, so the majority or a good portion of Superman was filmed in Cleveland. And if this does well, then I'm under the assumption they'll be back. And that's what we want.
Which is great, by the way, because Cleveland was
money.
always Metropolis in my mind. In my mind, Cleveland was always Metropolis.
It's amazing how many Cleveland. I mean, because the opening scene of the Avengers is in Public Square. It's downtown Cleveland. I don't know if you knew that either. Where Loki does the whole thing.
Yeah, right.
Boom.
Yeah,
right there. I know. So just propping up Cleveland a little bit.
There it is.
Yeah. I don't know what else going on.
Not much. It's summertime. Been working on client stuff. It's been a good summer. It's been a good summer for all 4 days of it. So basically, we had a nice kickoff to the solstice, did some barbecuing, and basically getting into summertime here. It's starting to get hot. It's hot there. Boy, holy smokes!
Oh, it's
the country going through a heat wave?
Yeah, we're in the dome. And it's very hot in Cleveland, but it's okay. I'll do some golfing later. It'll be fine. It's all good. It's all good.
There it is.
Do we have a show today?
We do have a show. We have a great show. We have a great show to get to. We're going to start off by talking about AI Slop and Anthropic, two things that go together like chocolate and peanut butter. And so a judge has given Anthropic a thumbs up for training on legit bought books, but they may still be headed to court over turning the world's largest virtual private library into their own training ground. Then we'll also pair with that sort of John Oliver's rant on AI Slop, which is sort of must-watch YouTubing, if that's such a thing. Then we'll get to our main stories where TikTok has raised a candidate. Yes, meet Gen Z's mayor in waiting, Zohran Mamdani, that basically won the New York mayorship and really has gamified his way into New York City politics, bringing viral ads, TikTok, millennial-friendly policies, basically really upsetting the balance of Democratic politics. And so that we'll talk about that from a marketing perspective. Then if we get some time, we'll talk about Axel Springer, the publisher, big publisher, Business Insider, et cetera. They're basically come out and say, we're no longer going to be tossing out clickbait. We're going to be saying AI. So we'll talk about what that might mean for publishing and for marketing and media. And then we'll get to our winners and losers, where I'm going to talk about the loser that is Intel outsourcing their entire marketing function to Accenture.
Unbelievable. I can't wait till you talk about this.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. It may be a surprise ending for some who may try and guess my take on it. But anyway, then you're going to talk about a winner that is Mumford Sons, great band, wonderful band. Then we'll get to our Rants and Raves, where I'm going to rant a little bit about the new LinkedIn sort of power ballad format being generated by AI that is just making me insane. And Joe is going to talk about, well, how the voice of America is really just, I don't know. It's just
an update. We're just doing an update. We talked about Voice of America.
Yeah.
It's limping along. It's probably worse that it's just doing a little bit of stuff. It's just
doing a little
it's a good case study in media and content marketing, actually.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. And they have such a genius in charge of it. So yeah.
I can't believe I know that he tends to lose his temper, but throwing the F-bomb out there, I was surprised. I got to tell you, I thought it was. I thought that the president was AI-ified. I thought that was not real when I first heard that he just threw out the F-bomb.
Yeah. Right? Well, it's that whole thing is just a fascinating thing, and I what I chalk it up to is just the fact that he his field of fucks is even smaller than
has he ever had one?
Yeah, that's right.
When has he had a field?
Yeah. If it's not about him, then he does not care. So I just don't think he cares. I don't think he cares either way. I mean, he really does believe that nothing can harm him. So yeah.
I don't know. I don't agree with that. I think that inside he's rather insecure.
Oh, well, that's.
I think he really. I think narcissist. He cares.
No,
I think he cares too much.
That's what I mean. It's classic narcissist, right? I mean, so it's the classic narcissist where it is the heightened level of insecurity that provides the bravado of the security, right? I mean, and so it's classic narcissism. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that maybe that's the name for the book that comes out. I think you would write
classic narcissism.
Has that been written?
You know what? It would be a great band name. That would be a great band name.
Oh my God.
And now on the main stage is classic narcissism.
That might be a good name for our band.
Yeah, classic narcissism.
As you create more of these AI ads.
I love
classic narcissism.
Classic narcissism. All right. Let's get to our main story here. Anthropic. This is coming courtesy of The Verge, which, by the way, The Verge is just really slaying it. I love.
They're doing very good work.
They're doing really good work.
They're shining in a sea of sameness.
That's right. Oh, well done. The headline here is Anthropic wins a major fair use victory, but it may still be in trouble for stealing books. The article opens up by saying a federal judge has sided with Anthropic in an AI copyright case, ruling that training and only training its AI models on legally purchased books without authors' permission is fair use. It's a first of its kind ruling in favor of the AI industry, but it's importantly limited to specifically physical books Anthropic purchased and then digitized. Judge William Alsop of the Northern District of California also says in his decision that the company must face a separate trial for pirating millions of books from the internet. The decision also does not address whether the outputs of an AI model infringe copyrights, which is at issue in other related cases. The lawsuit was filed by the writers Andrea Bartz and Charles Graeber and Kirk Wallace Johnson, who sued Anthropic last year over claims that the company trained its family of Claude AI models on pirated material. It's a pivotal decision that could affect how judges respond to AI copyright cases going forward. The ruling also addresses Anthropic's move to purchase print copies of books, rip off their bindings, cut the pages, and scan them into Central's digital libraries used to train its AI models. The judge ruled that digitizing a legally purchased physical book was fair use, and that those using digital copies to train an LLM was sufficiently transformative to also be fair use. So, I definitely have a take on this. I'm curious as to what yours are.
So, okay, I just have a question because I read this a couple times and I'm like, oh, so if Anthropic buys the physical copy, tears off the binding, scans it in, that's okay, that's fair use. But if they take the actual digital copy, that could be a problem. Why?
Because they didn't purchase it. Right?
But so if they purchase, okay, that's the difference. It's just buying the okay.
Yeah, because they didn't purchase it. They didn't purchase the book, so therefore they had no rights to be able to use the knowledge or the content within the book to train their model. That's the thinking. I think this is ultimately a big win for Anthropic because, and I think they sort of welcome the other. I have to think that they're like, this is, they basically, it looks at the surface like they've lost the battle, but they'll win the war here, because I have to think there may be other sources of books that they have that come out but this has already been decided with Google. So when Google did all of their millions of books, they did the same thing, right? They basically scanned printed versions of the books. Now, whether they purchased them or not, I don't have that information, but basically they did the same thing when they created Google Books, and that was the thing they got sued over and ultimately won, by the way, that they were allowed to do that. So if the books in question here are digitized but came from, for example, Google Books, then I can't imagine that they can penalize Anthropic for that, right? Because basically, it's when, it's like the question is, when did things get scanned, right? And who purchased it, and then what is actual fair use in that particular case? Mm-hmm. I don't think they're going to be able to to make a case against that. Secondarily, it kind of doesn't matter, because the worst that's going to happen here is that they pay a fine. In other words, so it's like, oh, okay, you might have to pay some big bucks for these books that you quote unquote stole. And so they would have to do it based on, well, what would they have paid for those books if they paid for them, which is going to be not a huge number, right? And then it goes away, right? So either way, Anthropic, I think, wins here, despite whatever you may think about the proprietariness of this or not, right?
I think it's a big waste of time, this whole thing. There's going to be all these court cases wherever. We talked about this a couple episodes ago. These big AI companies that are really trying to change the world and ultimately may come up with $1 trillion valuations with a T. $1 trillion. They don't care about any of these multi-million-dollar lawsuits. They don't care at all. It's just a big waste of time for everybody, I think. I mean, I feel bad about it, but there's been no laws. Like that's the United States government's fault to not set any parameters at all. So right now you've just got the wild, wild west where you've got the courts that's what's going to happen. You're going to have 70,000 different lawsuits all over the place. And you're going to have to keep track of this court said this and this court said this. And nobody's out there making any kind of regulations on this thing.
Right.
That I know of.
That's right.
So it's just kind of ridiculous that we're left to this. And to your point, who cares? I mean, they OpenAI, Anthropic, Microsoft, Google, who's the other key player? Meta. They will pay whatever they have to pay because they're in a race. They're in an AI arms race right now, and that's all that matters. They will steal any data. They've already shown all these companies will take whatever training data. There's just not enough data. They'll take it all from anywhere they can, however they can, and we're left with, okay, all these 3 or 4 frontier models, and we'll see who the winner is, because there will be probably 1 or 2 winners coming from those 4 companies.
Yeah. Well, it's it goes so much to what you think, so the key here is, and the reason that I'm sure the Anthropic lawyers are having pizza and beer and celebrating right now is because the core argument is that training AI on our IP, right, on books, whatever it is, television shows, podcasts, whatever, that are sort of behind some sort of paywall, behind a gate, right? Basically, you have to pay to get it in some way. Basically, the core argument from those who say that it's bad or that it's not right is that it's not fair use, right? That training AI based on this thing is not fair use. In the same way that we argued that Google indexing it wasn't fair use. And so what the judge has basically said is it is fair use as long as you have purchased one of the books, right? So if you've purchased a book or you've purchased access, or, so for example, if you've purchased access to the New York Times, well, now it's okay, right, to be able to train the New York Times data based on New York Times data based on your purchase of it. So
as long as you have one license,
that's apparently what I'm reading into this, right?
That's so crazy.
It's crazy, but that's the ruling that is coming down, right? So at its face, you go, yeah, that's ridiculous. But at the same time, you go, but that's kind of what we're arguing about, right? That's what, and so the question, to your point, it may be really a case of, you may hate gravity, but gravity doesn't care, right? It doesn't matter what we think. It's just, the horse is already out of the barn, or whatever you want to say.
It would be so brilliant if somebody, let's just take Anthropic in this case, said, you know what, before we do all this, let's make sure we get the Wall Street Journal subscription and the New York Times subscription and say we had it before we did all this stuff. And they're protected.
Yeah.
If they do,
at least going forward, it seems going forward that's the real impact of a judgment like this. It's like, and so and by making it basically saying, hey, listen, but you still have to go, you still have to face trial for all this stuff that you might not have paid for. You're actually even giving further credence to that judgment, right? In other words, I'm sure the Anthropic lawyers are like, bring the fine, bring, but in other words, bring it, because what you're doing is if you fine us and say, hey, listen, if you had just paid for this stuff, you'd be okay.
Yep.
Right. Then you're like, okay, well, now there's a hard and fast rule that basically says if I buy one license, one access, one ticket to the movie, I can basically train this for everybody. Yep. And that's just a fascinating thing. Did you listen to Pivot this week?
I did not. I did not get to it yet.
Kara Swisher was talking about the idea that when she originally, like back in 2001 or so, 2000, she was touring the Google campus, and she was actually meeting with one of the founders. I forget which one. And they were basically walking around, and there was a whole room of TVs at the time, right? Cable TVs. And there was they were all on different channels, and they were all being recorded. And she said, what's up with the room full of TVs? And basically the CEO of Google at the time basically said, oh, we're recording everything with closed captioning to index it. So we're indexing 24/7 television, right, for the Google index, which is like, and they apparently they had like an argument about fair use and all that kind of stuff so they're going to do it, right? This is not a question, and yeah, anyway. But it brings up, interestingly enough, we can talk about very quickly here, just the idea of AI slop, which we both saw the John Oliver. And if you haven't seen it, by the way, go YouTube it. It's there. Fair use. And basically go watch John Oliver talk about AI slop, which is the content that's being created at the moment, just at a fire hose pace out there. Did you come away with that?
It's so, I would absolutely say if you're at all interested in AI, you should watch this.
Yeah.
I was not aware that, and they do a great job of reporting, so I'm not going to question their stats, but they were saying that 80% of the found content on Pinterest right now is AI generated.
I would not disagree with that. I think that's probably close to accurate.
Well, and I was testing out and checking some stuff. You're right. Like if you want to find an image of a garden,
yeah,
it doesn't look like you can find any real gardens. It's like you're basically getting AI generated gardens, and they've thrown so much AI content into that. And it seems like, of course, that's what's happening with. I mean, we talked about it was a couple episodes ago with the Moses video, and you had the Star Wars videos that are going on. It's kind of getting ridiculous, and I'm trying to get a figure out, because I throughout the set, my son and I were talking about this, and I'm like, and I always use the stat that say in 2 to 3 years, about 95% of the content that we engage with will be synthetically generated. And now I'm thinking, is that too low? Is that like, I really do think that I mean, I'm not trying to exaggerate, because I do on occasion when it comes to AI content, but I think that we're probably at a 40% level now.
Yeah. Well, here's
on TikTok or Instagram.
I think, I think that, it's going to get interesting, right? Because the fascinating thing here is that at some point, everything becomes, there's the whole dead internet theory, which is basically at some point it starts feeding on itself, and therefore so it makes human generated content scarce. Thus, you would think it makes human generated content, like a real picture of a garden, more valuable, right? And so I think you may start to see elements such as, whether it's YouTube or Pinterest or those kinds of things, start to degrade that which isn't obviously fake, and start to elevate that which is obviously human. And I even as I say that, I don't even understand the ramifications.
I don't even know how they would. Yeah, I don't know how necessarily they would do that.
That's right. That's right. And so the other thing, but I would mention is that John speaks to in the thing, which is some of it, and he speaks to this. He talks about these cat videos, which are hysterical. There's a whole social media channel devoted to these cat videos, which are very funny. And as we've talked about, the idea of the stormtroopers and the Bible stuff and all that kind of stuff it's some of it is actually very inventive and funny. And by the way, mea culpa, we do it too, right? I mean, the way we do our ads is totally ridiculous and stupid, but we call it out as ridiculous and stupid. It's meant to be ridiculous and stupid because we're doing these stupid little music videos for ads. So we're contributing to the AI slop too, just for what it's worth.
So I didn't know this would come back on us. I was actually trying.
Well, it always does, right?
What I don't know if there's an opportunity out there for not using AI. So that's one thing I'm thinking of. I don't know the answer. Is there a thing where, a human generated content becomes like the vinyl, where it's all, it's always, I want that. It's a better sound. It's more authentic or whatever. Or what I really think is going to happen is I think most consumers don't care. And this is really just mostly in the entertainment consumer space. I don't think we're seeing this right now in the business space, but who knows? We absolutely could go there. I'm assuming it will get to that.
Well, where it could go is that the recognizability of it, and I'll speak a little bit to this when we get to the LinkedIn, the recognizability of it as AI generated content, because it does have a look. You can
Now,
tell
right now it does.
Right. You can tell if you just spend any amount of time with it. It could be that it starts to get reduced, kind of like what happened with photographs, with GIFs and memes, right? So now, like, memes have a look, right? You know, you can see it, and they use, whether it's a scene from a movie, an animated GIF from a movie, or an animated GIF from a viral video, or, you know, something from the news, whatever it is, you see it as, you know, through your eyes, you see it, oh, that's a meme photo. That's, you know, so it may start to reduce itself to that with some of the more ridiculous stuff. It's like, oh, that's just a meme AI video. And so AI may start to have its own sort of brand, therefore making it not really wanted in things like feature films or true commercials. Like, you know, you see the commercials now, right, with TV commercials that are true AI slop sorts of commercials, where it's not that great of AI, but you can immediately tell. I immediately degrade the sort of the brand effort on that. Just instinctually, I just sort of go, okay, I think a little less of that brand now.
A little shortcut.
That's right. Trying to pass it off. It's the trying to pass it off part, right? You know, it's like, oh, this is, you know, instead of sort of like, the difference is, and maybe I'm sort of rationalizing this. So I'm actually thinking hard about this, but the difference between what we do, and we'll get to this in just a moment, actually, which is the difference is that we're not trying to in fact, we're calling it out that it's actually AI generated and making fun with it, because it's about, you know, making some silly thing that was ridiculous at its core. We're making a cartoon, basically, that is our, you know, is the way that we're paying our bills with the ads. But we're not trying to pass this off as like, ooh, this is really thoughtful, wonderful, engaging, amazing content. This is literally, we're posting it because it's meme worthy.
The one thing at the end of this, at the end of the AI Slop video, where he's talking about what do we do with all this? He doesn't have a solution, which is, he's like, basically what it's done is we don't trust anything anymore.
Right.
We don't trust, like, and everything could be a deep fake.
That's right.
And what does that do? And I almost get back to your, I mean, I've seen so many of your speeches where you say, what is between real and what's true?
Right.
Like, do we get to a point where it just is? And then when you get to that point, I don't know where humanity goes if nobody seems to care anymore. Because I have family that they're like, they don't know the difference, and now they don't care, and now everything is fake no matter what. So everything that comes out in the news is probably not real. And where do we go?
That's right. That's
very
right.
uplifting message, by the way.
Yeah, it's a hard thing for us to wrestle with, and we are definitely going to have to wrestle with it for sure. And speaking of AI slop,
we go to our own.
We should. This is, by the way, this is the climax of this month. This is the last time. Next week we will have the new.
Very excited about the new one. We get one more chance with the original, and then
there it is. Let's do it.
On mics hot, we're ready to fly. Talking tech, life, and the marketing guy. We got takes that are fresh, jokes that land. But turns out hosting costs $1,000. So now we're rolling promos, smooth like vintage Romos. You hear that sponsor jingle? That's my friend and Pringles. We got an ad in the shell and a dream we can sell. We're not sellouts, we're self-made, so chill. If the tune makes you dance while we monetize chance, then you're welcome. We're paying the bills, yeah, we're paying the bills.
Hey, marketers, strategists, future builders, are you ready for what's next? Yeah, HubSpot's Inbound 2025 is landing at the Moscone Center in San Francisco this September 3rd to the 5th. It's not just another conference, it's the gathering of the brightest minds in marketing, sales, and AI. Think Amy Poehler, Dario Amodei, Sean Evans, Glennon Doyle, all of them in one place. You're going to experience keynote moments, product reveals, immersive workshops, and tactical breakouts that actually move the needle. The kind of insight you take back to your team and use on Monday morning. It's smart, it's bold, and it's built for leaders like you. Head to inbound.com/register to claim your spot. Again, inbound.com/register, and we'll see you in San Francisco. You could let AI eat your lunch, or you could figure out how to make it serve you lunch, with a side of revenue. You want all that in a podcast? Check out The Next Wave, your Chief AI Officer. It's hosted by Matt Wolf and Nathan Lands, two guys who understand AI and can actually explain it without sounding like robots. It's like having your own Chief AI Officer minus the six-figure salary. Find The Next Wave wherever you follow your favorite podcasts.
Makes you dance while we monetize chance. Then you're welcome. We're paying the bills. Yeah, we're paying the bills.
So good. I'm gonna miss Howard though.
Yeah,
The Howard
it
Jones
was good.
version.
So we went, just spoiler alert, we went with Southern Rock, as we talked about last week, for the July ads.
And then there's been talk requests for August to be musicals.
Yes.
Is that what we're doing? You're gonna
Totally.
do that?
Yeah, totally. For August, we're going because that'll coincide with CEX, and it's great, and it'll be musicals. And I already have some thoughts in my mind, and have, because I'm writing new lyrics for each of them. That basically same kind of theme of lyrics, but they go better for the genres of music.
But aren't all the songs are named "Paying the Bills," right? But
all
just a
this
different
paying the bills
version
is the common thing. Yeah, all the song titles are paying the bills, right? And so
Everything's paying
the
the
song titles
bills.
are paying the bills. And so, but basically obviously the lyrics change with a Southern rock twist, as you might expect, basically
So good.
lots of beer talk and drawls and how y'all doing kind of thing. And so, yeah,
It's gonna be, I've seen it. It's fantastic. I'm excited to show it. That'll be next episode. By the way, I didn't want to forget. Speaking of events, we just talked about one in our ad. Content Entrepreneur Expo. Early bird pricing ends this week, and if you want to see myself and Robert together, we'll be at CEX in Cleveland, August 24th. So go to cex.events, register there. You can see us there. And by the way, we will both have our new books there.
There we will. Absolutely.
Which we'll talk about
100%.
more in a program
in a bit.
To be decided later.
That's right.
But yeah, I'm very excited. This is like we've never we've written books together, but when we do our solo books, we've never done solo books at the same time.
Synced up,
This is like it's kind of strange. We've hooked up to the same schedule.
I was going to say we've been a couple so long that our cycles are matching. So basically,
it's exactly what I thought of.
Yeah,
our publishing cycles are in sync.
Are matching. Yeah,
together.
We've been. It just says how long we've been together. It's
Lord help us all. This is really gone down.
Oh my gosh, I love that joke. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's get to our next story here, which is congratulations to Zohran Mamdani, who won the New York City mayorship. And the headline that we'll pull from is from Axios, actually. And the interesting thing here that is the marketing strategy that Mamdani has used to get there, shocking everybody, shocking all of the billionaires and Cuomo and all the other sort of mainstream candidates. But basically, the headline here is that the Zohran Mamdani taps progressive playbook for electrifying Gen Z. Starts out by saying national Democrats pour millions into polling and research to try and win back young voters. Mamdani is offering a real-time playbook for how to actually reach them. The party establishment is deeply skeptical of the 33-year-old New York State Assemblyman, a proud Democratic socialist who's second in polls behind former Governor Andrew Cuomo ahead of Tuesday's crowded primary. But Mamdani's digitally native, culturally fluent campaign is undoubtedly resonating with Gen Z. A recent poll suggested he could win 60% of first choice votes, because they do ranked vote. Thank the more advanced. God, I think they're doing ranked choice voting. It's like, finally, we're in the 21st century.
Yeah,
but
we're
anyway,
getting there.
That's a different topic. For first choice votes among the 18 to 34-year-olds, what's happening? Mamdani is running on a left-wing populist agenda: rent freezes, city-run grocery stores, free public transit, with a campaign strategy built for TikTok, not television. His videos are fast, emotional, unmistakably Gen Z. They don't explain policy as much as channel frustration with a system that so many young people feel is rigged against them. They can also be funny. Mamdani has mocked his scandal-ridden opponents, including Cuomo and Eric Adams, with the kind of dry, internet-savvy humor that travels fast on TikTok. And besides his massive grassroots army, Mamdani has become a hot commodity in New York's influencer scene, tapping into an online ecosystem where political content doubles as entertainment. Basically, he has reached into the zeitgeist that is the TikTok generation and just electrified it, and then ended up winning, not just by a little bit, but he won handily in the election. So congratulations to him. But this is a new marketing machine here at work, and this is just total evidence of that.
And doesn't mean that he will become the mayor, but
no, I'm
under the assumption that a Democrat would win the mayorship of.
You got to think.
So we would think so, but it is really incredible, and just firsthand from my own experience, my youngest loves him, like so passionate, like was checking updates and making sure, and has friends in New York making sure that they voted. I mean, is a really, really big deal. So he has hit on something with his marketing. And plus, the majority of his support has come from people that donate $35 or less. So I love it. I don't know much about it other than read a couple articles and talked to my youngest, but there's something here that says if you've got a good message, you consistently deliver it, you may be able to make it without the money. Now, granted, it isn't just, this is only New York City. We're not saying this is the rest of the world or anything. But I love this example that you can cut through all this clutter and somebody like this can win. And
well, I think it speaks to, and we talked about this maybe last week or 2 weeks ago, where we talked about the real demise of mainstream media as the mover and shaker in terms of marketing, right? You know, we talked about it with how Trump really leveraged podcasts as opposed to mainstream media television appearances to drive his, to drive his base to vote. And in so many ways, and I mean, there are so many implications to this. You know, one of the things that I keep seeing over and over and over again in the media, especially with the way that the mainstream media continues to cover this White House, right, in the press room, which has, I mean, it doesn't, and this is just calling balls and strikes here. The White House press briefings are no longer White House press briefings. They're just, a ways for them to pontificate their message of the day, and that's it, right? I mean, that's all it is, right? There's no debate. There's no calling people out. There's no, it's just, I mean, love her or hate her, Caroline Leavitt has basically turned the press briefing into a propaganda machine. And, which maybe you argue that's what it always has been, but you're getting zero pushback now because of the access challenge, right? They're scared to death they're going to lose access. And so the mainstream media is really just, they're doing exactly what everybody wants them to do, which is basically be a punching bag, a counter narrative, right? It's like the real thing to do here would be to sort of go against that and not cover it at all, right? In other words, just there's no reason to cover the White House press briefing anymore. There's just no reason. You're not getting anything. You're not getting anything other than falling into providing a counter narrative that everybody can rail against on social media. So it's like, why even play the game? Mm-hmm. And it's this a fascinating thing for marketing when we think about what we're doing in marketing right now, and with the way that whether it's television advertising, whether it's radio advertising, or whether it's podcast advertising, or whether it's trying to go out there with some sort of brand message. Really what you're trying to do is resonate within siloed, communities now. All you're trying to do is trying to figure out which of my messages can I insert into these siloed communities, these echo chambers, to resonate there. And the masterful marketer is stitching these communities together in a way that makes a overarching message makes sense. And that's what Mamdani did, is went into each of these Gen Z, millennial, mainstream, older voters, and basically figured out a way to sort of surgically inject those into their sort of and basically build that stitching together physically, digitally, et cetera. That's the new way of marketing. And it's a fascinating trend. I'm here for it.
Well, you mentioned, and we've talked about how Trump, for example, went on the Joe Rogan podcast and Theo Vaughn and with the influencers, and we gave that a lot of credence when Kamala Harris did not, for whatever reason. But I think we missed the bigger story is Trump is the content creator. He is Mamdani.
Well, that's exactly right.
Is the content creator.
Yes,
that's what the point you're trying to make. And if we look at any enterprise, look at you're a marketer that works for like you. Yes. Do we want to leverage influencers on the outside? Absolutely. But the influencers need to come from inside your company. You need to consider yourself as the content creator, and that will make the most impact. So it'll be interesting to see in the next election, the content creators will probably be the ones that will win this thing.
Here's the difference.
Content creator.
Yeah. Here's the difference, because you're absolutely right. The content creator, in this case, Trump, in this case, Mamdani, in this case, Harris, right? Here's what Harris didn't do, right? Because what Trump and Mamdani have done so well is exactly what we were just talking about, which is to go into each of those podcasts. Let's use just podcasts as an example here, or those communities in social media, and tailored their content creator idea to that community. He spoke, for example, Trump spoke very differently and talked about very different things on Joe Rogan's podcast because he understood what that audience cares about and what was going to resonate with that audience. He spoke very differently there than he does anywhere else on the thing. What Harris did was, it wasn't that Harris didn't go on any podcasts, but Harris basically took a overarching sort of main message, a mainstream media message to those podcasts. And it's like, it's not going to resonate in that audience, right? It's that mainstream message isn't going to, that story, she didn't tell her story to that audience in a way that resonates. So she didn't stitch together those communities at all. That's the difference, is how do you, as the content creator, go into each of those individual communities and stitch them together with your story, but told in a way in the narrative that resonates with them, and basically not care that you might not resonate with someone else who doesn't listen to that podcast, because guess what? They're not listening to that podcast. Yep. So on one, Trump can go completely off the rails, right? Completely, conspiracy theory, the whole thing. And in a bigger one where that's not quite the right message, or that's quite not the right their story, he's a different kind of content creator, but he resonates, and he stitches them together with that, with that sort of core theme. That's the difference. That's the real difference.
Stitches is the word of the day.
Yeah, stitches. Snitches get stitches.
What's the
Snitches
song?
Get stitches.
Who sings that song? Stitches.
Stitches.
I can't think of it. Oh
man,
it's a young kid.
Anyway,
I'm gonna look it up later. Okay.
Let's get to our winners and losers, where we pick a winner in the week of marketing or a loser in the week of marketing, and basically call them out. You got a winner.
Mine's real quick. Mine's real quick. Went to the Mumford Sons concert. It was fantastic. The weirdest thing about it is that it was, I don't know, we were like 50 minutes in, and they get up and say, we have to stop playing now, and you all have to find shelter. So everyone had to go back to their cars. If you're in the pavilion, we were on the lawn. If you're in the pavilion, you just sheltered in place in the pavilion at Blossom in the Cleveland area. And we had to go back to our cars, and we waited for over an hour, and it was lightning everywhere, and there's tornado warnings, and we didn't think that we were going to get back. But they started playing again at 10:30, and they played another hour, so I give them credit. So they didn't do a full show, but we got to see a lot. My marketing winner in this whole thing is throughout, before the concert, during, and bits, they had a QR code to their little membership group. And basically their little membership group is a glorified e-newsletter. It just says, figure out where Mumford's going to be. You get a chance at exclusive merchandise. It's just a little membership club. But
Nice.
it was one of the few concerts I've been to that they actually promoted it.
Build an addressable audience.
And I'm just like, what? It's just beautiful, right? Yeah, because they don't have, Mumford & Sons doesn't have my information directly. Live Nation has that information.
That's right.
So how do you go around that? And it's just, we don't think about, like, you have all these assets, and we don't think about, okay, how do we get people to subscribe? So I just love that. I saw it right away, and I'm like, oh my God, that's brilliant. They're getting everybody. I saw people doing it. They getting the QR code. I want to be in the community. Very, very easy. Unbelievable.
Yeah. So, I love it.
Good one.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. All right. I'm calling it a loser, but the reason I'm calling it a loser is simply because I'm sad for it. So basically, and we'll put this link in the show notes, which is the Oregon Live website, which is reporting on it, although there are a number of magazines reporting on this. But basically, Intel has basically outsourced or announced that they're going to outsource their entire marketing function to Accenture. And so here's the story. Basically, is like Intel used to be one of the few technology brands that people really did know. I mean, back in the 90s, Intel Inside was one of the most lauded marketing campaigns, branding campaigns to exist in that time. And it was a total flex for your computer maker to say Intel Inside. There was a sticker on your computer that said Intel Inside because that meant speed, it meant quality, it meant, a great thing. And the interesting thing is how far that brand has fallen in literally the last, let's call it 20 to 30 years. And so now they're making the CEO is making a conscious strategic retreat. They are waving the white flag basically from brand as advantage here. They're no longer trying to lead. They're no longer trying to inspire. Their business model has completely changed from IP to basically becoming a foundry of manufacturing chips and all those kinds of things. And what has happened here is that this might be the smartest thing that they can do that's also truly tragic and sad. Because if you're the CEO of Intel, you recognize that you've got headwinds, right? You're not going to outbrand NVIDIA right now. You're not going to outbrand Apple. You're not going to really outbrand even AMD. And so what do you try and do? Well, you're now really the plumbing of some things. And so you've got to become the cheapest. You've got to become the commodity, the dependable one, the sort of, thing that you don't even think about. And so that's kind of the corner they back themselves into with their business strategy. And so what they're doing here is basically saying, hey, we're not going to try and become a big brand anymore. So therefore, we're not going to try and be a thought leader. We're not going to try and be a beloved brand anymore. We're not going to try this. So really marketing at this point is just executional. Therefore, we can sort of outsource all of it to Accenture to come in and do because then it becomes a jettisonable thing, right? It becomes sort of a different way we can recognize the cost. Marketing to us is really just a tax of stuff that we have to do. Therefore, we're going to get right into execution and we'll base everything they do on ROI. It would not surprise me to learn, although I've not seen any of the details here, that their compensation is based somewhat on ROI, some sort of ROI metrics, but they're going to be paying millions, tens of millions of dollars to do this, to basically park a bunch of Accenture consultants into Intel. The sad part is that the Intel employees are going to be training these Accenture consultants on how to actually do this stuff. And they'll just look at it as an operational, widget making factory, I'm sure, and look at this in a year and see what they're doing and as a cost cutting measure. The market loved it, by the way. The market, sort of rewarded the idea. And so normally I would say this is a horrible mistake. This is a bad mistake. They're doing this, but it's like you look at it and you go, well, it's basically probably the only thing they had to left, right? In other words, it's really a strategic retreat from sort of doing that. And while I can lament the decision and sort of see it kind of as a loser sort of mentality, at the same time, you kind of go, yeah, but it kind of is what it is. And sort of this CEO is looking at it and going, this is what I've got. So it's not necessarily a dumb decision. It's just that's just a little sad to watch. So I'm calling it a loser, but I don't know that it's actually a losing strategy.
So Accenture is inside Intel? Is that what I mean?
Oh no. Oh no, you didn't.
Is
That's
that
good.
where we're
That's good
we're
stuff.
going?
No, that's good stuff.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
good.
when
That's,
you
there you
I
go.
mean, when to your point, when you take a key corporate function, one of the most important functions, marketing in the enterprise, and you outsource it to someone else, it's only a matter of time. So
That's right.
It's only a matter of time. So if that's how we're looking at it, okay.
Well, it's just, yeah. I mean, it's just, you look, because as I was thinking about it, I was like, yeah, well, or you're either on a countdown or you're looking at this like, honestly, there's not that much to market anymore. You know what I mean? When you think about it, right? Because they've lost all of the IP parts of the business. They are just, and I don't know that there's any desire for them to get back into that business. So there's really nothing to differentiate anymore. It's really selling it. It's like selling gold or selling, there's no reason to market the commodity as a competitive advantage and differentiator on brand, right? It's literally just, hey, we're literally here. So the marketing literally becomes, by the way, still here, still invisible, still dependable. You can basically depend on us for the whatever it is, the cheapest manufacturing or the ways to manufacture chips. So
still lots of opportunities to market, though. So
I would think so,
relationships.
But yeah,
that's where I would never condone this type of move. And
I don't either, but we're marketing fanboys, right? We're marketing fanboys. So it's sad to see, but I can recognize the business strategy behind it.
Yeah. Dumb.
Yeah. Anyway, there you go. There you go. All right, let's get to our rants and raves quickly, where Joe and I go off on a little bit of a rant or a little bit of a rave over something that makes us feel like, oh, I don't know, that we were invited to Jeff Bezos's wedding or that we were actually uninvited. And, I just want to go to Venice, really. That's really all I want.
Have you ever been to Venice?
I've not been to Venice, and I really want to go. Yeah.
It is rather amazing.
Yeah.
Like you might maybe for your like big birthday. Maybe
you go to Venice.
Somebody will
I would actually go to Florence.
Venice.
I think I would, if I was going anywhere, I would go, or maybe both, right? Go to Venice.
If you're gonna go, if you're gonna go to Firenze, you might as well go to Venezia. Same thing. Okay. You want me to go first on my?
Yeah, you go. Yeah, you go first. Yeah, you go first.
I'll put this up on the screen for those of you watching at home. This is the Voice of America Iran mess. This is a Axios article, and it's just interesting to see what's going on here. As everyone knows, we talked about it, whatever it was, a month or 2 months ago, when Voice of America was completely gutted. Everything was stopped. And then as things changed and people realized that there was some value, they started adding more people, some people back. And basically what happened is that Voice of America in the Middle East created 75 minutes of content targeted to its audience in Iran over a 72-hour period, which basically was not great reporting. It wasn't, they cut people, they're bringing them back. They cut some more people. There's no organized strategy here. The whole thing is just kind of sad. It almost makes me think of, when you have a regular, consistent content vehicle that has built an audience, that has delivered on goals, and then you stop. It's very, very hard to get that back. In any way, even if you brought everybody back, which they did not do. So they brought back some. It looks like they recalled 75 terminated staff in Persia, but it's kind of cobbled together. They're trying to ramp it back up because they now realize that, oh my God, what did we do? Couldn't see this coming, Robert.
Yeah.
So anyways.
Yeah, it's just a continuing sad sort of tragic tale, right? It's a
tale as old as time.
Yeah. It's so funny. Well, it's so funny to your point, which is the interesting thing to me is that you watch what's happening here in real time with what's going on with VOA in real time, and it mirrors what we see so many companies doing with their content marketing platforms, right?
Absolutely.
Where it's like, it's the hot thing. I'll give you an example. Intel had one of the best, so back in the day, 2010, 2011, one of the things that we used to talk about all of the time on this show, as well as at Content Marketing World, and sort of, as one of the great examples of content marketing, was the Intel magazine, right? The consumer magazine that they created. It was an amazing magazine, basically talking about technology and all of the technology that computer chips and Intel chips were making possible. And they talked about drones before drones were a thing. And they talked about, it was an amazing magazine, right? Print and digital version of it, by the way. And then basically over time, it kind of lost favor with the marketing regimes that were in place. And therefore it was cut and then killed. And then it came back a little bit. And then it was cut and killed again because it didn't align with the new CMO. And basically we see this, and now it's, of course, completely gone. As Miracle Max would say, it's completely dead. But it's we see the same thing over and over with marketing and content marketing as well. So it's a case study happening in real time.
It's so interesting. I mean, obviously, the reason why this changed and some of the support is back for VOA is because some of the Republican representatives are saying, "What did we do?"
Right.
Like, and they're like, and I mean, if you read this article, there's quotes here that said from Don Bacon, Republican from Nebraska, says the VOA is now needed for Iran. We've got to get things back. Well, if it's needed for Iran, it's probably needed for a lot of other countries too.
Yeah, exactly.
And what did you do there? Does that mean so? We'll see if it all comes back again. It's just whatever. Yeah, we've seen it before. We'll see it again.
All right,
what do you got?
very quickly here. I am going to talk about LinkedIn specifically, but you're seeing it on Facebook as well. So let me just take you into my little mental movie for a moment, because you've seen it, right? So here's a post that you might see on LinkedIn these days. I failed, new line. Then I succeeded. Now I'm a better leader. Here's how you can be too. Mic drop. Every post reads like a motivational power ballad. Every sentence gets its own line. Every insight is a drum solo. The chorus, be authentic. The bridge, add value. The encore, smash it like a button. They're like these beat poetry. It's like every time I see it now on LinkedIn, I can't unsee it, because it's just so clearly ChatGPT or Anthropic or whoever sort of posting this out. It's now sort of its own format. And I get it. It's skimmable and it and there's this vulnerability there. It's like, I'm lost, but now I'm found, and now I'm found again because I found AI. I found _ the technology and M- other things that I'm looking for. It's like this. I swear, if you go now to LinkedIn, you will find 14 posts like that now. They read like song lyrics, right? They literally read like power ballad song lyrics instead of actual posts. And I can't. The dude does not abide. Let me just put it that way. It's just I can't. It's getting to the point now where it's like I just scroll right by those things anymore. And there are people that we know that are doing it. Like I absolutely.
Oh, I saw one this morning that I didn't know you were going to talk about this, but now I'm looking at. I'm like, oh my god, of course.
It's it, right? It's of course right. And the other thing is that. I'm getting these in email too, the kind of song lyric-y things. And the fascinating thing about AI and the style of writing that I can't now unsee is the way it does synonyms, right? So in other words, and what I get a lot of, and I'm just fascinated by it, are these clearly AI generated sales emails, like spam emails. And because my title is Chief Troublemaker, right? Sort of a cute little tongue-in-cheek thing that I do, right? That's my title in my LinkedIn profile, et cetera, et cetera. Well, they're now addressing the spam email to Chief Troublemaker, and they're asking AI to sort of basically, customize it for me, right? And so for whatever reason, AI associates troublemaking with the word chaos. So what I get are all these emails that say, hey, troublemaker, you love chaos. And it's like, no, I kind of don't love chaos, but okay, you do you, right? It's like, so the style of the sort of synonyms that ChatGPT pulls, basically, it sort of gives it away. It totally gives it away as well. Anyway, so that's my rant. That's my
so
rant. It's like, I'm
crazy.
just
Yeah.
tired of it.
We're at a very interesting point in time with this
Yeah.
AI stuff. It's gonna, yeah, absolutely. All right. So how are you celebrating the birthday?
I'm doing nothing. I'm hanging out at home. We're going to have a barbecue. I'm going to barbecue. I'm going to swim in the pool. I'm going to hang out. I'm going to listen to music. It's so quiet. It's good. The one big indulgence I'm getting an ice cream cake. So, which is my favorite thing. So I'm getting an ice cream cake, and other than that, it's going to be very quiet.
It's nothing like an ice cream cake.
It's
my favorite.
That's my favorite.
We're just, it's cooled down a little bit today in Cleveland. Nice. It's supposed to cool down again. We're going to enjoy all the outside time. We'll probably go kayaking, which we love to do this time of year.
Love that.
See a couple outdoor concerts. And yesterday we were celebrating somebody's birthday, watched another outdoor concert. It's just, this time of the year is why you live in Cleveland. So,
same here in Southern California.
Yeah.
This is June is the year. There's the time of year, like you get the beautiful 72 degrees and sunny. Which is what it's going to be today. So yeah.
Oh, that's so nice. Yeah, ours is like 82 degrees and humid, so a little bit different, but the same.
Yeah.
Okay.
There you go.
I'm done.
There you go. All right. Thank you all so much for hanging out, and make sure that when you go to LinkedIn, you put it in one sentence and you speak like William Shatner as Captain Kirk. We'll see you next week on a regular show of This Old Marketing. So thanks for being here, and we'll see you next week on This Old Marketing. Hey, thanks a lot for making it this far in this week's episode, and thank you all for being a part of This Old Marketing. You can check out all the show notes of what we talked about today at thisoldmarketing.com, and it's also where you can leave us a review or a voicemail. We need those reviews and comments on whichever platform you follow us on. And if you haven't followed the podcast, please go do that and make sure you catch the latest and greatest episodes every Friday morning. We're on Apple and Spotify and all your other favorite podcatchers, of course, but we'd love it if you went over and subscribe to us on YouTube. That's right, YouTube. youtube.com/@thisoldmarketing. We'll see you again next week, folks, with another episode of This Old Marketing.